Regan Slaymaker for International Boxing News, and I have the pleasure to welcome you to episode 4 of the preview show. This week we are covering, it's the big one. It's Riyadh season UK, Anthony Joshua versus Daniel Dubois for the IBF heavyweight world title. I mean, does boxing get much bigger than this in the UK? The National Stadium, the media started properly doing all the stuff yesterday. My first day is today, Wednesday. When you're watching this video, it should be out tonight. And I mean, what an event this is going to be. Daniel Dubois defends the IBF heavyweight world title that he secured through his win, getting the interim belt against Filip Hrgović in June on the 5v5. And now he's fighting the former king of the division, Anthony Joshua. There is no two ways about it. Anthony Joshua was the kingpin of boxing for such a long time, unifying the division. And like Daniel Dubois has been saying all week, you've got to slay the king. Daniel Dubois he's full of intent to do that. Anthony Joshua is there to prove that he's still the top dog in the division, and he's going to hunt down the winner of Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk as well. This fight's a banger. It's got loads of different facets that make this fight incredibly exciting and fascinating. But two Brits, two heavyweights, two world level fighters headlining at the National Stadium. It's the creme de la creme of boxing, especially in the UK. I mean, both fighters are on an incredible run of form. Obviously, Anthony Joshua coming off wins against Otto Wallin in December and then Francis Ngannou in April, and Daniel Dubois against Jarrell Miller on the same card in December, and then Filip Hrgović in June, as I mentioned. I've heard a lot of people say, just the interesting conversation, that kind of Dubois' wins are exceedingly better than Anthony Joshua's. I wouldn't go that far. I'd say they're both actually a very similar level contextually. People have the debates on the Francis Ngannou win, which is fair enough. He's obviously not a boxer, but I mean, Wallin was coming off a career best win against Murat Gassiev in Turkey. If you don't know who Murat Gassiev is, unified cruiserweight champion, moving up to heavyweight. And Francis Ngannou, whilst he was coming off a debut, whilst he was a UFC fighter, whilst at the time the Fury fight was kind of the first of the Riyadh season shows, and not many people had much faith in it, but he still dropped Tyson Fury in a close fight that he lost. The majority of boxing people say that Tyson Fury won, but he still dropped the lineal heavyweight champion at the time. And Joshua poleaxed him inside a couple of rounds, and in emphatic fashion as well. And the size of him, you're telling me Francis Ngannou doesn't have a chin? Come on. But yeah, and the big part of me, I think people are forgetting, a lot of people were picking Otto Wallin in December. The amount of people who said of Anthony Joshua coming off the Jermaine Franklin and Robert Helenius fights, that he wasn't the same AJ. It wasn't. He should retire. He's already done all this success. He's coming in against the guy who's tricky, who cut Tyson Fury, and all this stuff. All roads were leading to people picking Otto Wallin on the Riyadh season show in December 2023. But people are forgetting that because of the absolute demolition job that AJ done on Otto Wallin. That was one of the best performances on that card. It was emphatic, and he stopped Otto Wallin in that fight. Another thing that kind of people are bringing up is that Dubois' kind of the way the Joyce and the Usyk losses ended, maybe they'll have an effect in this fight against Anthony Joshua. I actually don't think that's the case. I think he proved a lot in the fights against Jarrell Miller and Filip Hrgović. Against Miller, I mean, Miller is an absolute mountain, regardless of your opinions on him injecting however many PEDs into his system and being banned from boxing. It seems like now where he's come back and he's fighting clean and he's actually putting in good performances. It seems like he's an absolute problem for the heavyweight division, and he was giving Daniel Dubois absolute issues on that show. And Dubois kind of rallied back. He went through hell, and he come back and he stopped Jarrell Miller. And someone who I think had about £100 on him. it was absolutely ridiculous that he managed to stop the man that is Jarrell Miller as well, and as well the Jarrell Miller's performance against Andy Ruiz. I mean, that's made that win for Daniel Dubois age incredibly well as well. I mean, question is the reason why you guys have clicked this video. Who do I think is going to win? I think Anthony Joshua, in the destructive form he's in the confidence that he's in, and the fact that Daniel Dubois, it's not like he can't be hit, right? I mean, they're heavyweights, everyone can be hit, but you can make the same argument for AJ. But I feel like the fact that Dubois can be hit and be hit early, and AJ punches incredibly hard, one of the hardest punchers in the division, if not the hardest puncher in the division. I would not be surprised if AJ gets the job early, gets the job done early, and becomes the new and a 3-time heavyweight world champion. If I had to pick a prediction, that would be it. AJ inside 1 to 4. However, Dubois does look like he's turned the tide mentally, inside and outside the ring. I'd like to have a chat with Dubois this week in the few media days if I can, because he's not really afraid to just speak and kind of show his personality a bit more. I find him quite funny in the interviews he's did. I don't know if anyone's seen the video where he scared Deb Sani. Like, when we have seen that a couple of years ago from Daniel Dubois? Probably not. He's more open to talking about the loss to Joe Joyce now. And I think that's all a sign of his maturity. He's not a baby anymore. He's turning into a man, and he's the heavyweight champion, and he believes it. We saw that face-off where they nearly had a bit of a push and a pull. I mean, it's interesting. Like, yeah, I'm picking Joshua to win early, but that's because I'm forcing myself to make a prediction for this fight. I would not be surprised if Daniel Dubois makes those 4 rounds incredibly difficult for Anthony Joshua, but I'm not ruling him out to go further down the line. But if I had to draw my line in the sand, I'm going to go Anthony Joshua early. I mean, when Anthony Joshua fights, and if he wins, everyone talks about what's next when he wins. Some people think it's an inevitability that he wins. I mean, I think if Tyson Fury wins or loses the rematch against Alexander Usyk in December, I think we get Joshua Fury or Fury Joshua next. I don't care where it is. Just make the fight. If Anthony Joshua wins on Saturday night, just put it in his contract that he's fighting Tyson Fury next. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, because I think everyone's happy. And then Alexander Usyk can fight Ajit Kabayel, who's his mandatory. No one will argue with that. Kabayel's a good fighter, and he's deserved his world title shot, to be fair. But just give the fans Tyson Fury versus Anthony Joshua. That is all we want. That's all we want. Okay, and yeah, I'm going Joshua early. Anthony Joshua 1 to 4. But leave your prediction in the comments below. I want to hear your predictions. If you think I'm incredibly wrong, please say. I'm going to move on to the European middleweight title clash between Tyler Denny, the champion, and Hamzah Sheeraz. I'm a big fan of this fight, and I'm a big fan of both men as well. I mean, if you've had the pleasure of talking to either Tyler Denny or Hamzah Sheeraz, you'll know that they're 2 of the best people in boxing. It's just a fact. Both fighters, for me, doing these interviews, doing these boxing shows, they're 2 fighters that will always give you the time if they can. They will always give you the most amount of energy. They'll never give you kind of one-word answers to try and make the interview go quickly. They will always give you the time and a respectable amount of it as well. And they're always nice to you, like off camera as well. They'll shake your hand and do all those things. So it's a bit annoying that both of them are fighting each other. But Tyson Fury is on a serious Tyler Denny is on a serious high at the moment, coming off a career best win against Felix Cash. I was there in Birmingham that night. Dominant win for Tyler Denny against arguably his career hardest fight to date. Regardless if Felix Cash was inactive or not, Felix Cash on his day could probably beat any middleweight on the planet. That's just a fact. We look at his destructive performances against Denzel Bentley. We look at what Denzel Bentley's gone on to do since then. Yes, lost to Nathan Heaney, but he's rebuilding himself incredibly well from that. Yeah, Felix Cash on his day was was one of the most exciting fighters in Britain, and Tyler Denny dispatched of him. Again, inactive or not, you can only beat the fighter who's in front of you. It's not Tyler Denny's fault that Felix Cash was inactive. And Hamzah Sheeraz, in my opinion, and I think this is where you can get my prediction from in this fight, Hamzah Sheeraz, in my opinion, is the best middleweight in the country. Wins against Dmitry Mitrofanov, Liam Williams and Austin Ammo Williams has secured his position as mandatory challenger for the WBC champion Carlos Adames. I mean, it's an excellent fight, and it won't be easy for both men. Tyler Denny is one of the kind of boxing success stories at the moment, through excellent performances, and it's just tenacity. He's so fit. He's so athletically fit. He won't leave his opponents alone. And it will be the same for Hamzah on Saturday. He won't be leaving Hamzah alone for the time he's in there. He's aggressive. He's aggressive when he wants to be. I think my only issue is I don't think he'll have the punch power to keep off Sheeraz. Denny kind of has respectable power that makes kind of fighters think for a minute. He stunned Felix Cash in their fight, but he didn't knock him out. But it definitely stunned him. Cash was wobbled for a couple of seconds in that fight. But it is enough to make some fighters think, no thanks. We saw it against Signani for the European title. Signani didn't want any more than he needed to in there. He saw the tide was changing and he didn't want any more. So that's where he gets the majority of it. If he gets the stoppage, or if his fighters go late, he makes the fight hard for his opponent, but he doesn't concussively knock them out. Whereas Hamzah Sheeraz, on the other hand, he has that concussive KO punch power, and he's a very, very good boxer. Everything comes off that jab. The exceptional job that his team and his trainer Ricky Funes has done. I mean, it's going from strength to strength. He's really improved every single fight, and I feel like the pinnacle of that was that fight against Ammo Williams. He boxed excellently in that fight. Had to weather the storm a bit. Ammo's a good fighter. He got chin checked in that fight. Ammo hit him with everything, and it didn't make an effect. Hamzah still was able to walk him down and stop Ammo, break Ammo's heart, and dropped him multiple times in that fight as well. I think if he hasn't already, I think this is the stage, National Stadium, football stadium. He's a big football fan, Hamzah. This is the stage to prove how good he is and that he's ready for that world title shot. He's WBC mandatory. He's number one for Carlos Adames. But I think you beat Tyler Denny on the form he's in. You win that European title. No one can question that you're ready for that world title if they were already. My pick for that fight, Hamzah Sheeraz to pick up the European middleweight title, become the new champion in a hard fought contest against the current champion Tyler Denny. And the thing is, I think for either both men, I don't think we talk about a loss defining fight. As a loss in that fight doesn't define either of their careers. Both of them can come back. Both of them can still win major titles, if not world titles, even regardless of the result. But I am picking Hamzah Sheeraz to become the new European middleweight champion. The next fight I want to discuss, and I mean, contrary to popular belief, and I see you guys on Twitter slating this fight. I'm going against the grain. I love this fight. Anthony Cacace versus Josh Warrington, IBO super featherweight world title on the line. Not the IBF. Current champion Anthony Cacace, they've agreed an exemption with the IBF in lieu of kind of the Sugar Nunes mandatory. But obviously where Josh Warrington isn't ranked at super feather by the IBF, he can't be sanctioned for the title. But Anthony Cacace is coming off, I mean, the performance of his life against the then best super featherweight in the world in Joe Cordina. Josh Warrington, I mean, coming ever so close to beating the best featherweight in the world at the time, Lee Wood. Do not rule out Josh Warrington in this fight. I mean, he's in nowhere a shot fighter. The performance up to the stoppage, it sounds like ifs and buts, but the performance up to the stoppage against Lee Wood proved that he was boxing excellently. It was like Josh Warrington reborn in there that night. I think moving up in weight will do him a world of good. I don't know where he's been a career featherweight, maybe, I don't know, maybe that fight where Lee was one fight too many at featherweight. We know it was probably the same for Lee, but he got the win, so everyone will forget about that. But it's all things to put into context as well. And I don't think, like Tyler Denny against Hamzah Sheeraz, he will not leave Anthony Cacace alone in there. However, I mean, Anthony Cacace has proven how good he is. I mean, he was brilliant that night against Joe Cordina. It can't be overlooked. I don't understand how people are kind of overshadowing Joe Cordina as this guy who was lucky to get an IBF title shot and blah 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 blah. I think it's absolutely ridiculous. After that fight against Rakhimov, he's the best super featherweight in the world, and especially after and the way he done it, the way he knocked out Joe Cordina, I'd like to see another fighter do that to him in his career. Joe Cordina doesn't have too many fights left, I don't think. I don't think we see that again. I think that is the only time where Joe Cordina will lose a fight like he did against Anthony Cacace. And I think all the praise needs to go to Anthony Cacace because that was the performance of his life in there. I've seen a clip. Carl Frampton, he's talking to Josh Warrington about the fight. Obviously, good friends of Anthony Cacace, but fought Josh Warrington. They've become quite good buddies since then. And Carl explained in his fight with Josh Warrington that kind of he's never been so hurt in a fight in his life against Josh Warrington. Whilst Josh Warrington, again, doesn't have that concussive power, but he gives you, bloody hell, he gives you that power. It makes a load of fighters think, I don't really want any more of this, to be honest. But then Carl was also saying inspiring Cacace is the hardest person that he's been hit by. And that's with the big gloves, that's with the head guard on. I do edge towards Cacace in this fight in recent form. Obviously not undefeated. He lost one previously, but that was a long time ago. And he's picked up major domestic titles and world titles since then. Obviously that IBO against Michael Magnesi, which is an incredible win as well. It's a great fight, Magnesi. But yeah, I edge towards Cacace in this fight, but I'm going to say points, and I think it'll be a close but clear decision win for Anthony Cacace on Saturday night. I do want to touch on the IBF situation. I think it's been blown out of proportion a little bit. I do think I saw a report that the teams knew a month ago that Josh Warrington wouldn't have been sanctioned. Ultimately, the IBF I think done the right thing. Obviously, not sanctioning Josh Warrington. He hadn't fought super featherweight. He wasn't ranked. They've tried to slip him in, obviously, with a mandatory. However, the only counter argument to that, Josh Warrington is a 2-time IBF featherweight world champion, and he nearly, ifs and buts, he had an exceptional performance against the best featherweight in the world in his previous fight. He had obviously lost, but he had a close fight with Fernando Lopez as well, where he lost the title. Exceptions have been made for worse things in boxing. I think that's where the argument comes from Team Warrington. Maybe the IBF could have shown, I don't know, is there loyalty in boxing? We don't know, but maybe that could have been a case. I'm just saying that if you want to make an argument for Warrington to be sanctioned for this fight, it's because things in boxing have happened previously that maybe they shouldn't have done, and that's probably why they feel a bit hard done by. However, the IBF being the IBF, we've seen them strip Jair Pataya in recent times for fighting Ellis Soro when it was already kind of locked in that he was going to fight Maris Breedis, who was his mandatory challenger afterwards. So it kind of sometimes all of that seems a bit ridiculous. But the case on Saturday is that the IBF title isn't on the line. Anthony Cacace remains champion. If Cacace wins, he must fight Sugar Nunes within 180 days. If he loses, he will be stripped of his title. Obviously, Sugar Nunes will get that shot. Wouldn't be surprising if Warrington wins in that scenario. He probably does get put in as number 2 with a super featherweight. Obviously, beating the current champion, then he's set to fight Sugar Nunes. But yeah, that is a situation with the IBF. I don't want to talk about that for too long. The next fight The unexpected grudge match, the clash of personalities on this card: Joshua Buatsi versus Willy Hutchinson for the WBO interim light heavyweight world title. Yeah, as I said, a bit of an unexpected kind of tasty build-up that this has come out from. Obviously, between two standout amateurs, looking to secure their position as mandatory challenger for the winner of Beterbiev Bivol. It's building up to be a bit of a tasty affair. The round table, the kind of afters afterwards. Joshua Buatsi seems very disrespected by Willy Hutchinson. He also, I've seen him obviously accuse kind of Willy of some very unsavoury things. I think he said there were racist things in the build up to the Craig Richards fight. Obviously, Willy Hutchinson denies those things. He said he's going to use that accusation kind of to as motivation in this fight with Joshua Buatsi. But I mean, I think all of this build up, all of this kind of frustration, all of this aggression, I think this builds up in favour of Joshua Buatsi. I think we see the best Joshua Buatsi when he's spiteful, when he's kind of got a point to prove, and then not when he's fighting these fighters who he sort of knows he can beat in the most respectful sense.